So today we're going to be using blocks as we have been. So if you have blocks, blocks will be useful. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. So have your blocks where you can reach them. And we're going to start standing up. So you can come to wherever is comfortable on your mat. Step your feet out just a little bit wider than normal. And bring your palms together. Just take a moment to notice how you're feeling. You can rest your gaze on the floor, or if you'd like to close your eyes, you could close your eyes. And start by taking a few deep breaths. Notice your feet pressing into the ground, your hands pressing together. And think about lifting yourself up as you press your feet into the ground. And start to notice how much energy you have. How your mind is behaving today. Just get a general sense of how you're feeling. And then as you're ready, if your eyes are closed, you can open them. If your hands are together, you can drop them down. And begin with what we usually do, a little bounce. So you could bounce your heels up off the floor. You might take some hops if that feels good. You might lift one leg and shake it out, shake your arms out, shake your legs out, shake your whole body out. You can do it as gently or as vigorously as you like, but just get some full body movement in. You might take some really deep breaths as you're doing this. Maybe you sigh them out audibly. You can take your time slowing it down and coming back to center. And you can pause in mountain pose, or you can pause the way that we did to begin with, maybe by stepping your feet out a little, pressing your hands together, whatever feels right to you. Maybe you close your eyes, maybe you just gaze at the floor and notice what you're feeling. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes if they're closed, release whatever you're doing, and then bring your feet into a position that feels stable. Doesn't have to be wide, it doesn't have to be a short stance, but lift yourself up on your toes and then lower yourself down. Try that a few times. See if you can do it with some control. And notice where you feel it. So maybe you feel it in your calves, maybe you feel it in your feet, in your toes. Notice what it's like to balance as you do this. Once you've done it a few times, you can stop and grab a block. if you have a block. And place your block in between your in between your ankles. So I'm putting mine on the wide setting. You can put yours wherever feels like it's going to work for you. And once you have it stuck in there securely, try lifting yourself up and down a few more times with these calf raises. And notice if it's different. And if it is different, how is it different? Is it helpful to have the block there, or does it feel like it's in the way? Or does it not really change things for you? Sometimes it can be useful to have a block there because it provides some more feedback for us and we can know a little more where we are in space, but that's not always the case for everyone. So once you've done that a number of times, you can stop and place your block next to you. And if you have another block, actually place them both in front of you to start with. And once you've got it in front of you, lift your right foot and tap your block and then place it down. Lift your left foot, tap your other block, place it down, and alternate feet. So you're just tapping your block with the aim of maintaining balance. So we're shifting our weight back and forth. And you can do it as slowly or as quickly as you like. So whatever feels more useful to you. Sometimes moving really slowly requires us to really focus on where our weight is. And that might be more of a balance challenge. But it could also be useful to do it quickly and to see what that's like. That might actually make it more difficult not to kick your block over. So you can take just a moment to kind of explore both of those options. Once you've done that a whole bunch of times, grab your blocks and place them beside you. You want them a little bit out from your body so that you can have enough space to maneuver here. But once they're beside you, try tapping each block, lifting one leg, tapping the block that's beside you on one side, and then doing it on the other. And you can do the same thing here. So maybe go really super slowly for a bit. Maybe then you change the pace a little and just notice what it's like to continually be shifting your weight with the aim of tapping the block. Maybe it falls over, maybe it doesn't. Either way is fine. But if you knock it over, just remind yourself that that's how we learn. We test the limits to learn where they are. And as you're doing this, you might notice where is the challenge for you? Like at what point does it become challenging, if it does at all? You might also look for what do you enjoy about this, if anything? Is there a way you can make it more enjoyable? Is there a way to focus on the part of it that maybe seems like It could be fun or something that you like. And once you've, I'm giggling because Mark is pretty much dancing here. So once you've done that a few times, take one of your blocks and place it in front of you and have the other one on the side. And from here, whatever block you have on the side, you'll be using your other foot to step forward. So if you have the block on your left side, step your right foot forward, tap your front block with your right foot, place it down, and then lift your left foot and tap your side block. And try that a few times. So you can kind of play around with this, like as far as speed goes. And you might also notice, like, are you looking at your blocks? Most likely, yes. That's probably going to be very helpful. So notice how, when you lift your side leg, you kind of have to look around your side leg in order to see that block. So your body probably leans a certain way. Just kind of really be mindful of how you're moving. So you don't have to control it, but just notice it, because your body is this kind of wonderful mechanism that has all these little parts, and it tends to self-organize in a very efficient way. And once you've done this a number of times on this side, switch to the other side. And notice as you try it on the second side, is it harder on this side or easier? Or does it feel different? Maybe it feels exactly the same. Again, you might play with the speed at which you're moving. And as always, it might be useful to place a hand at a wall. Sometimes even just placing one finger at one unmoving point can be enough of a signal to our nervous system, our brain and our nervous system, that it actually gives us a much greater sense of where we are in space. That's always a great tool to use. So once you've done that for a while, you can decide if you would like to explore any of the combinations of tapping blocks, or front or back, or in any other combination. And another thing that you might consider trying would be maybe playing with your block in terms of placing a foot on it and seeing what it's like to turn it in another direction. And then maybe turn it in another direction. You might see what it's like to flip it down with one foot, and maybe you can flip it back up with the other, maybe not. So that's an option, and you don't have to try it. It might be a fun, novel thing to try, but certainly tapping blocks in any direction is also a super useful thing to do. If you are trying this, manipulating your block in terms of switching its direction with your feet, you might notice that that brings in some potentially unpredictable challenges in terms of you have to figure it out as you go. And one of the things about that I think can be useful is that in everyday life, things are not always predictable. And learning how to adapt as we go tends to be a really great skill. And a lot of the things that we do every Sunday are sort of aimed at building these skills in the hope that they will spill over into everyday life. So sometimes we're doing things that don't feel exactly like yoga, but they might be really practical. So take another moment to explore that. And once you feel like it's complete, you can set your blocks up at the front of your mat, have them out of the way. And we're going to try doing some heel toe stuff here. And I'm not going to give you a lot of parameters. And by heel toe, I mean this pivoting, this moving by lifting your toes and then lifting your heels. And so you don't have to do both feet together. You might try starting that way, just kind of shifting around. But you could also do one foot at a time. So maybe you try this pivoting out into a wide-legged stance and then pivoting back in. Maybe you shift around the room. But one of the things that might be useful when you're doing this would be to keep in mind that your knees can be really useful here. So keeping them soft and using them to adapt to take up some of the force so they can help soften things. You might try pivoting in one direction and pivoting in another direction. So if you do, you might notice what part of your feet naturally move. So is it more useful for you to pivot on your toes or to pivot on your heels? Or do you naturally do a combination? So this is another skill that may translate very well into everyday life. We're often required, as we're moving in space, outside or inside, doing whatever we're doing, to change direction pretty quickly. And pivoting can be a great way to do that. So again, keeping your knees soft and even keeping the rest of your body pretty soft and responsive. And noticing, how does that help? You might notice where your weight is. And one thing you might try would be keeping your weight in one foot. Try pivoting the other foot out and see how much weight you can keep on the stationary foot. And then maybe you pivot that foot back in, again, trying to keep the weight on the foot that is stationary. Does that make it easier to pivot or harder? And you might compare by then bringing weight into both feet and trying to pivot one foot out. and then pivot it back in. Maybe try that on both sides. So depending on where the weight is, where is their resistance? Where is their friction? And once you've tried that a bunch of times, you could take your pick. I'm going to offer a flow, but you could, if any of these things seemed fun or interesting or like worth your exploration, you could go back and revisit any of the things we've already done. And if you'd like to try the flow, place one block in front of you at the front of your mat and your other block to the side of your right foot. Actually, you might not even need that one at the front of your mat. You need one block at the side of your right foot. So come into mountain pose. So engage a little through your body, lift up tall. And then as you're ready, hover your right foot and then tap your right block with your right foot. So again, you might place a hand somewhere. Place that right foot back down after you tap your block and step your left foot back into a lunge. And once you're in your lunge, spin your back heel down, face forward, and do whatever you like with your arms. Maybe you sweep your arms up into cactus arms or lift them up towards the sky, whatever feels right. You're in warrior one here. Take a couple of deep breaths in warrior one, Virabhadrasana one. And then as you're ready, you can do anything you want with your arms, and you can do anything you need with your legs, but try to pivot into warrior two. So one of the things that I find useful is to have soft knees here and to pivot so your front foot stays the same, but to pivot my back foot. And I think I keep my toes down, but for you, it might be very different. You might keep your heel down as you pivot. But just notice as you're pivoting, kind of opening your body to the side into your warrior two from warrior one, how do you make that work? Do you keep your front knee bent or do you straighten it more? Do you keep both knees soft? But once you've pivoted, and you can try pivoting a couple of times, when you're ready, settle into your warrior two. You might extend your arms out to the side and take a couple of breaths. However you want to face, maybe you're turn your head and look over your right fingertips. And then when you're ready, take your time pivoting into a wide-legged stance where you're facing the side of your mat. So that will involve pivoting your right foot. And you might do that a couple of times and notice, what do you naturally do? Again, I'm noticing that I dig in my toes and I pivot my heels around. And it might be very different for you. So once you've tried that a few times, settle into your wide-legged stance, facing the side of your mat. And if you would like to fold forward into Prasarita Padottanasana, hinge from your hips and lower yourself down, maybe halfway, maybe all the way down, whatever you like. So we do Prasarita Padottanasana pretty often. Maybe you prefer a half forward fold with a flat back. Maybe you like to drop your whole body and allow your head to release. Wherever you are, take a few breaths in your wide-legged forward fold. And then as you're ready, engage through your lower body, through your core, and lift yourself all the way back up. And from here, I'm going to ask you to make your way back to the front of your mat. Maybe you could consider pivoting your feet to do so. And if that doesn't work for you, you can do it any way you like. Awesome. And once you're there, place a block outside your left foot. And we're going to repeat that on the opposite side. So lift your left foot, tap your left block, drop that foot down, step your right foot back into a lunge. Spin that heel down. And once you're in your long lunge, find your warrior one. So maybe bring your arms into cactus arms. Maybe you lift your arms up. Take a moment in your warrior one. Before then, attempting to pivot into your warrior two. And so, as always, find the way that it works for your body. So whatever you want to do with your arms, whatever you want to do with your legs, essentially, you're opening your body to the long edge of your mat. And your hips may follow to some degree. Your feet may only pivot a little. And likely it's just your back foot. So once you're in your warrior two, and you could try moving back and forth a couple of times if that feels right. But once you're in your warrior two, settle in for a moment, take a few breaths. And when you're ready, pivot into your wide-legged stance. Try a forward fold if you like. Once your forward fold is complete, bring yourself back up and make your way back to the front of your mat, maybe using that pivoting action in your feet, or maybe not. But if you do, pay attention to soft knees, soft body. Where is your weight? And we're going to try that again on the first side. So you can move at your own pace, and I'm going to talk you through it, but you don't have to follow my cueing. You can do it at your own pace. So essentially, tap your right block with your right foot, drop that foot down, step your left foot back into a lunge, spin that heel down, find your warrior one, whatever arms you like for warrior one. Take your time exploring it, and then try pivoting into your warrior two in whatever way works for you. You can take your time in warrior two, and then maybe you pivot into a wide-legged stance. Maybe you try a forward fold. Take your time in your forward fold and decide when you'd like to come back up and make your way forward to the front of your mat. And once you're at the front of your mat, we'll try it on the other side again. So step your left foot up, tap the block, place it down, step your right foot back, spin that heel down, find your warrior one. take as much time as you like in Warrior One before trying to pivot into Warrior Two. And of course, if there's anything we're trying that doesn't work out for you, maybe you hate pivoting and you're like, I'm going to skip it. But whatever you like. Once you find your Warrior Two, you might take a few breaths there and then decide if you'd like to move into your wide-legged stance, maybe by pivoting, maybe trying a forward fold once you're there. And if you're in a forward fold here, take a few really deep breaths. When you're ready, you can come out and take your time making your way to your front of your mat. Maybe exploring pivoting, maybe not. But once you're at the front of your mat, just take a moment in mountain and notice where you feel whatever you're feeling. And then take your time coming down onto your mat. Come into a seated position. And start by extending your legs out in front of you. Then bending your right leg and placing that foot on the floor. And from here, you might keep that foot right there, or you might step that foot over your extended leg. Bring your left hand to your right knee, your right fingertips behind you, and then twist to the right. So you're lifting up tall through your spine, twisting. Maybe you look over that back shoulder. Maybe you keep your head neutral. Just make this work for you. So this is a version of Ardha Matsyendrasana. As you're ready, you can unwind. If your foot is stepped over your leg, you can unstep it, extend both legs out, and then bend your left leg. Place that foot on the floor. Maybe you step it over your other leg. Bring your right hand to your left knee, left fingertips behind, and come into your twist. As you're ready, you can unwind from that. And then extend your right leg out long. Bend your left leg and place the sole of that foot somewhere along the inside of your right leg. And if that doesn't work for you, you don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want with that leg. Sometimes that position for that particular limb doesn't work. You could also place a block under that knee if that helps. But turn your body to face your extended leg and see if you can sit up tall. Maybe you fold forward over that extended leg, but only if you feel like there's space in your body and you don't have to force anything. You might bring a flex into that right foot. So you're here in runner stretch or Janu Shirshasana. See if you can slow your breathing down just a little if that feels okay to you. Maybe you extend your exhales out a little longer than your inhales. And I think it was last week, I was trying to remember the percentage that they recommend to go to in any stretch if your goal is to gain flexibility over time. And I looked it up again, and it turns out you don't have to really go any further than about 30% even. And you will, over time, with about 5 minutes per week, not all at once, but 30-second to 60-second intervals of stretching, you can increase your flexibility according to research. If you're folded forward, you can come up and try it on the other side. So extend your left leg out. Do whatever you want with your right leg, but maybe one thing you might try would be to bring the sole of that foot somewhere alongside the inside of your left leg. And then turn your body to face your extended leg. Sit up tall, maybe fold forward to any amount. As you're ready, you can come up from that and make your way into a lying position on your back. Once you're lying on your back, pull your right knee in towards your chest, extend your left leg down on the mat, bring your left hand over your right knee, extend your right arm out to the side and twist your knee over towards the left. Unwind from there, come back to center. Pull both knees into your chest for a moment. Then extend your right leg down on the mat. Bring your right hand over your left knee. Extend your left arm out to the side and twist your knee over to the right. When you're ready, come back to center and take your time setting yourself up in Shavasana in whatever position feels restful today. You can close your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, but you don't have to. Just take the next couple of minutes to rest. So if you find your thoughts racing, you might just notice that they're racing and let go of following them, at least until they entice you again. If your mind is wandering, bring yourself gently back into the present. You can take your time opening your eyes if they're closed, finding a little bit of movement, maybe stretching, maybe transitioning into a seated position. But if you'd like to stay in Shavasana, if you're not already seated, you can do that. And take just a moment wherever you are to offer yourself some appreciation for one specific reason, if you can think of one. And then just a moment to acknowledge the practice of yoga as an ancient Indian practice, which many people held on to and kept alive even during colonization when the British tried to eradicate it, and were then very generous sharing it with the rest of the world. And thanks for practicing with me.